Hey everyone, I just wanted to start this video off by apologizing for the lateness of my top 20 list for 2022. I actually recorded the rest of this video in December, but for various reasons I didn't get around to editing it and posting it, so apologies for that. I definitely am glad that I finished it because there were just so many great albums that came out in 2022, and I just wanted to share the ones I thought were particularly notable, and hopefully you will discover some new ones. And if you have any that you would like to recommend in the comments that maybe I didn't include, or maybe ones I haven't heard, I would definitely love to check them out. So anyways, on with the show, and yeah, enjoy. Hey everyone, it's Dan from The Plague here. Welcome to my top 20 rock and metal albums of 2022 list. This year has been an interesting year. It's, I think, been overall a much better year than 2021 in terms of like really excellent albums. And as usual, this is merely my top 20 favorites as of right now. I'm sure there's albums out there I haven't heard yet, which, I appreciate any suggestions in the comments section if there's ones that you think I would dig based on what I list here. And I'm sure that, as time goes on, some of these albums will drop out, some others will move their way up. But as of right now, I'm recording this in December of 2022. These are my top 20 albums in the rock and metal genre for 2022. So let's get on with it. At number 20, this one is a nice comeback for a band from Finland known as Stratovarius. I'm sure many people are aware of this band. They are one of the most well-known and longest-lasting bands in the power metal genre. It's been quite a while, actually, since their previous album, so it was really nice that this finally came out, and hopefully we'll be seeing them on tour with this in the coming year. The other thing that was really a nice surprise was just the quality of this, the music on this album. I mean, there's songs on here like Survive and Firefly, World on Fire, that are just like exactly what you want from Stratovarius. They're just like great, powerful, fast, incredible musicianship, great vocals, super catchy. Yeah, everything that the band does well. And I think that those three in particular are right up there with their best songs. And yeah, this is... there's other songs that are not as good, but overall it's a pretty solid album from start to finish. Great production and just a great welcome return for, probably the, other than Halloween, probably the most, experienced and, in my opinion, best power metal band out there. All right, moving on to number 19. This is a band that I actually featured an interview with on this channel earlier this year. They are from Belgium. They're one of the longest-running thrash bands. They started out in a little bit more of an alternative direction, but they pretty quickly latched onto the classic thrash sound that they have really perfected, especially with this album, I think, EOS. This is one I don't unfortunately have a physical copy of yet, but it's, yeah, what can I say about these guys? I had not really known about them. I think they've kind of been under the radar, at least in the United States, for many years, but After All is a really interesting mix of styles. They have a little bit of the Bay Area thrash sound, but they also have like some of that real visceral German thrash mixed in there as well. And on top of that, they have great vocals that are kind of more in the artillery, Flotsam and Jetsam range. They're much cleaner than the average thrash metal vocalist. So yeah, and this is just another like strong album, all the way through. This one didn't really have as many standout tracks, I don't think, but it was just a great listen from start to finish, and yeah, it's just really enjoyable quality thrash. Okay, moving on to 18. We have from Canada the band Metallion and their latest album, Beyond the Wall. This is actually their fourth album. They've been around for quite a while, since the early 2000s, and they've always been good, and this is just like yet another step forward for them in terms of songwriting and production and everything. This is classic heavy metal, very much in the vein of Priest, a little bit of Iron Maiden, some U.S. power metal thrown in there. It's nothing that's going to like surprise you or shock you, but if that's like your jam, then yeah, highly recommend this. It's just very well executed, great vocals, some real Halford-esque screams on here. So yeah, really good record all around. Number 17. Now this is a band that a lot of people have been really raving about, especially their live shows, which I saw them with Creator and Obituary a few years ago, and they were indeed very entertaining. It is Midnight, the black and roll, blackened thrash, blackened speed metal, modern day Venom, whatever you want to call them. Very much a lot of fun. A lot of satanic silliness, but very entertaining. And yeah, this would probably rank higher if there weren't so many other really good albums this year. And also, like, I don't think it's as consistent as some of their other records. There are some really good songs on here. Sex Witchery is great. Frothing Foulness, really great song. But yeah, it's not up to the levels of their, obviously, Satanic Royalty, I think, is everyone's go-to favorite. But it's still really good. I mean, this is a band that really have found their sound. It's a little bit of Motorhead, a lot of Venom, and kind of their own, original twist on the whole thing. And yeah, they play it with so much energy and fun that it's really hard to not like any of their albums. So this is not their best album, but it's also not their worst album. And yeah, that right there puts it in the top 20, because even a mediocre Midnight album is still an excellent album. Number 16. So this is a band that it's a duo. They're called Host. This is a really interesting mix of styles. It's kind of hard to pigeonhole it at all. In fact, it's got a little bit of that 60s occult rock. It's got a little bit of metal. It's got some dark wave in there for sure. Very dark themes, but also like very like kind of lifting, melodic vocals. Very catchy is another thing that I found really enthralling about this. The album is called Two Shadows, by the way. It's a debut. It came out on Relapse Records, kind of out of nowhere, but yeah, this is one that I think is going to get bigger and bigger as the next year comes in, because it was a real grower for me. Like, it wasn't even in my original top 20, but the last couple months, as I've been going through and reviewing all the albums and listening to them over and over again, every time I listen to this one, like, I find new things in it, and it's just like, oh, I want to listen to that again, which is always a good sign for me. So yeah, it's made it quite a ways up there in my list. Let's see, what number are we up to? Lost track. 15. Okay. Oh, yes. This is a great band that also is fairly new. They're from Germany, called Lucifer. Iron Shackles is the name of the album. Also one of the best songs on the album. Yeah, these guys, again, are like very triumphant, classic heavy metal. That kind of marching beat, really great choruses. And they also have a really interesting vocalist, to be sure, but also just some really interesting change-ups in the songs as they go along. It's not as predictable as one might imagine, just kind of looking at the artwork and the song titles. But yeah, another really strong debut album, which is always nice to see. It's always great to see new blood coming into the scene. And yeah, Lucifer. Okay, number 14, we have Satan with Earth Infernal. We go from Lucifer to Satan, so we cover all the bases here. This is the classic workhorse new wave British heavy metal band, Satan. Went through a lot of lineup changes back in the 80s, broke up for a long time, but then they somehow managed to get like the classic lineup back together in the 2000s, and have just done a string of like high quality classic heavy metal albums with some like real speed metal moments here and there. And this is yet another one. In fact, this is one of their best ones in my opinion. Great performances, just great interesting song arrangements all around, lots of cool riffs. Production's a little meh, but it's okay, like it does the trick. And yeah, just 10 more great songs to add to the Satan canon. Number 13, this is a band that I never feel gets enough credit for what they've done, because they have done many amazing records over the years, and I just love them. And I'm talking about Sweden's Audrey Horn. This is their latest one. It's called Devil's Bell, and this one's a little different. It kind of it got a darker edge to it, which is interesting for them because they're usually a little bit more upbeat, a little bit more rock and roll, and this one's got a little bit, just a little bit. Like it's not like a drastic change for the band or anything, but it's enough that like I wouldn't suggest this to anyone who hasn't heard the band as the place to start. I don't even know which one I would suggest for that. Any of their last 3 albums, I think, would all be excellent candidates for that. But yeah, it's cool because it's not just another Audrey Horn album. Like it's easy for a band like this to get, I think, in a rut, and this I think shows that they are still exploring and trying some new things, and for the most part, it works really well. The catchiness is still there. The really cool riffs, the interesting mix of heavy metal, hard rock, little bit of punk thrown in there maybe. But yeah, and also very cool artwork. Like, yeah, I love this one. So yeah, another great album from an underrated band. Here's a band that has been around for many, many years. I would not classify them as underrated. They have definitely gotten their due. That is Kreator. Probably my favorite of the German thrash bands, as much as I love Sodom and some of Destruction's stuff. Kreator's always just spoken to me. I just love that they've never shied away from trying new things. Like, they started off as just pure, chaotic thrash, with even like a little bit of almost like black metal, mixed in there, kind of like the early Sodom, Sepultura. But they quickly evolved into more technical thrash, and then from there they tried some, they incorporated some industrial elements, some gothic elements. Miles tried clean singing, his more, palatable shrieking style that we all love. And they have done a pretty consistent job of putting out quality albums, I feel. Like, there's ones that I definitely like more than others, but I don't feel like even during the 90s that they ever put out a bad album. And since they've kind of returned to their more brutal thrash roots in recent years, it's been pretty consistent. And this is just another, great album in that discography. It's It's maybe a little bit more diverse, not quite as fast as some of the other albums, but it also has the song "Hey Liberales," which is just insanely fast. Like it's like, you know, Slayer at their fast, which is really great to hear. And yeah, I like the diversity. I love the artwork. I mean, this thing is just gorgeous. You know, it's like a 3-panel thing. Get these great pictures of the band, all kinds of cool artwork. So yeah, it's not. It's kind of a safe bet, you know, with Creator these days, that you're not going to be disappointed. And I was not disappointed with this. I felt it was an excellent record from them. Again, probably not their best album, but it's very consistent. It's very consistently good, and also you know, experimental at times. Like there's a few songs that you wouldn't expect to hear on a Creator album, which is always cool. All right, moving on to number 11. And this is probably one of the few albums that's going to be on my list that's on a lot of critics' lists. But yeah, it's Sylvain's latest album, I think third album, Nova. This is on Season of Mist, and if you're not familiar with Sylvain, she is an artist that it's basically a one-person project. You know, it's she has a live band now that she tours with, which unfortunately I've missed her twice now, as she's come through Seattle. But hopefully next time around. But yeah, she does just an amazing mix of black metal and like atmospheric, a little bit of shoegaze. Like the opening song is a madrigal that reminds me a lot of Miranda Sexgarden, if anyone remembers them. It's just got these beautifully layered vocals, and it's just such a great contrast with the more grim, like black metal elements that come in later, and her like really shrieky vocal style. It's pretty unique. It's a delicate balance, but I feel like she pulls it off really well, and yeah, it just makes for a really compelling listen all the way through. So moving on to number 10, we have a comeback album that I feel like has really just not gotten the attention it deserves this year, and that's the new one from the Helicopters. These guys have not put out an album of original music since 2005, so this was like way overdue, and fortunately, it's a really solid album that just picks up right where they left off. They still got that great mix of, you know, 70s hard rock with some punk thrown in, and just these like really catchy hooks that, you know, a lot of pop bands would be jealous of. So I was totally happy with this. A lot of times, you know, bands like this will come back and you'll be able to hear the years and how they've changed over that time, but somehow the Helicopters are just the Helicopters, and you gotta love them for that. Number 9. This is another one that I've been seeing on a few best of lists. In fact, I discovered this. It wasn't on a best of list, but I think it was on like a honorable mention kind of thing on Banger TV. Someone referenced it. It's the band Sonia and their debut album Loud Arriver. And this is again like just an unusual mix of styles that is hard to pin down to just one thing. So this band was formed by Melissa Moore, who was in Absu for a long time. The style here it's just a really infectious mix of yeah, describing the style is difficult. It's got like elements of occult rock. It's got elements of post-punk. It's got a little bit of metal, classic metal and hard rock thrown in there. Really interesting, unique vocal style. Lots of reverby haze kind of over, you know, everything, especially the guitars. But somehow that instead of like burying things, it like really enhances just the atmosphere of the whole project. And yeah, um, and really excellent rhythm section too that just keeps the songs moving along. So another really surprising, out of the blue debut album this year. So Sonia, number 8. Number 8, yes. Another one from Canada. This is the band Spell, and I'm sure, talked about these guys in the past because I think, encountered this band when they opened for Raven up in Vancouver, and yeah, I was just blown away. Like, they just have a great sense of tying together like classic 70s heavy metal and hard rock with, I don't know, like it's a slightly more modern feel to it at times, but it's I would compare them, if I had to compare them to anyone, it would be Rush and Blue Oyster Cult, because they have that kind of slightly mystical vibe going on. The music is fairly elaborate, but it's also like very well constructed, and like they rein it in. It doesn't just like kind of drift off into like total prog territory or anything. They really know how to construct a song that holds your attention, but it still offers up a lot to digest in the process. And I think this is actually their most melodic and catchy album to date. So, but it's not, again, a drastic departure from their previous work either. So if you're a fan of Spell at all, I think you will still love this one. Number 7 is another album that I unfortunately don't have yet. It's from the Swedish band Sarkator, who a very young band. One of the members is the son of somebody in The Crown, I believe. And yeah, their second album really shows some progression. Like, their first album was just like pretty straight down the line, fast, brutal, death thrash metal. Kind of what you would expect from someone related to someone in The Crown, but really well executed, and not, I wouldn't call it derivative of The Crown either. This one really just starts branching out, and it's really cool to see. There's a lot of like really interesting, lengthy instrumental passages on this album that you don't normally hear in this style. A lot of just really cool change-ups. There's like some slower tempos on the album. There's some like acoustic parts that are just beautiful, and there's even a song that has like a real swing feel to it, like kind of the classic Black Sabbath. You don't really hear much at all in this genre. So yeah, just a very inventive, very promising to see where this band goes in the future, I think. Number 6. This is a band that I also discovered from seeing them live, much like Spell. That is the band Sog from Sweden. They opened for Celtic Frost back when they did their reunion tour here in Seattle. And these guys really made an impression on me. And their first album was just great, classic doom metal. It was an interesting mix of like the more epic doom metal with like the really classic like Pentagram, Sabbathy sort of stuff. And usually people kind of take one side or the other, but I like that Sog is kind of does whatever they feel like doing, and it works. Like they really nailed the sound. And with this album in particular, I feel like they've moved away a little bit from the doomier side of things, but they still definitely have that Sabbathy vibe. Especially the vocals have a definite Ozzy tinge to them at times. But yeah, just really good quality, classic Sabbathy doomy metal. I don't know what else to say about it. It's really good. Check out any of the songs that they've released videos for. Okay, we've hit the top five. Now this is where it gets serious, I guess. I don't know. Anyways, number five is a band that I have always enjoyed to a certain extent, but it's really been their last couple of albums and EPs that have, I feel like, taken them to an entire new level, and that is Sweden's Soilwork. Uh, this is their latest. It's Ever Giving Hitten. It's a pretty lengthy album, which is not my favorite. I like when bands can kind of keep things concise, but I can't argue with the quality of the songs on here. Like it never slacks. They're just that same. It's very much in line with the last album and EP, in that it's just like these amazing. In some cases, like really fast riffs and rhythms, but like they all make sense and they flow together. Like they're fairly complex songs, but they like flow really well. The vocals, which have progressively gotten cleaner. There's still definitely some harsher vocals on here, but he's been mixing it up. Bjorn has been mixing it up a lot more in recent years, and there's some just great, memorable choruses, some amazing riffs, and musicianship all around is just awesome. So, highly recommend Soilwork. If you've enjoyed them ever, and especially their more recent stuff, I think you will like this one. Number four is a band that I got the pleasure of interviewing earlier this year, and that is also a band from Sweden, Avatarium. So this is the band that was started by Leif Edling from Candlemass, who is no longer a part of the band, but still, contributes song ideas here and there. And I think it's exciting that like they started off so strong, but you could definitely hear the Candlemass influence on their earlier records, and they've really kind of, as they've been writing more and more of their own songs, they've really developed their own style outside of that I think is, if anything, even stronger than what they had before, which is cool. Like a lot of times, I feel like it's a rare thing where you have that many people in the band that can write songs with that kind of skill. And this is just a great, diverse album. As much as I love all their other records, this is easily my favorite that they've done so far. It's still got some doom metal on there for sure, so it's a lot more diverse. It's got a lot more going on that might be a little bit surprising to people, but I think if you liked them before, you will definitely enjoy this. And if you haven't heard them, this is, I think, a great one to start with because it still has some of the classic Candlemass feel here and there, but there's just so much more going on. It's like this, they've really opened up their sound, and I can't wait to hear where they go with the next one. Number three. This is another band that I've been following for several years. I've actually got a chance to see them live a couple times, thankfully. Savage Master, and this is Those Who Hunt at Night. This is a band that has like a very classic Metal Blade band sort of imagery. It's like a mix of somewhere between the Mentors and Bitch, and it's easy to look at it and kind of dismiss them as just like, a gimmicky sort of band, but they put on a great show live, and song-wise, like they've always written good songs. I feel like the last album was kind of lacking in the production department, but this one like is not only the best produced album, but like the songs are just classic. Like I can just listen to this album front to back over and over. Hunt at Night, Spirit of Death, Queen Satan, everything on here is just it's classic heavy metal. Again, like if you liked any of the great U.S. bands from the mid '80s, I think you will definitely dig Savage Master. And yeah, this is as good a one to start with as any if you haven't heard them. Number 2, Sanhedrin. This is another album that I reviewed this year. I just absolutely loved. It's classic heavy metal. It's got a great distinctive vocalist. Some really just excellent songwriting all the way through. It's a compact album. It's only 8 songs, 41 minutes. And yeah, you never feel like, you never get bored. You never feel like they're just throwing in a song to fill the time. Everything just feels very well thought out and in its proper place. And again, if you are familiar with this band at all, I think this is very much in line with what you're probably expecting, but it's, again, maybe just a little step up. It's always great to see bands like this continue to evolve without, radically changing their sound. They just take what they do well and they just do it better. And that's definitely the case with Sanhedrin. Okay, number 1. This is, anyone that knows me probably won't be too shocked, but I've gone with the new wave of British heavy metal band that we all know and love, Saxon, with their latest Carpe Diem. This is a band that I think out of all the, the new wave of British heavy metal, you had Def Leppard, you had Maiden, you had Saxon, were kind of the 3 biggest that came out of that scene. And obviously, Def Leppard, totally changed their sound and became huge. Maiden are just the legendary band that is Iron Maiden. And Saxon have always kind of struggled, I feel like over the years. Like, they've always been kind of, they've either headlined theaters or had to open for other bands at arena shows. But, and they've gone through, their share of lineup changes. And they've done, a few dodgy albums in the late 80s, early 90s. But by and large, they have had a pretty consistent output, and especially, I would say, in the last 20 years for a band this far into their career, they have just done some amazing, amazing records. So you have Sacrifice, you have Call to Arms, their most recent one, Thunderbolt, just all great albums. And I feel like Carpe Diem is right up there with the best of them. It's also, it's very consistent. It's also got the song The Pilgrimage, which I feel like is such a good song. It's I don't know, I could see it being in their set for years to come. It's got that epic, classic feel. It's always been there. It's always been a Saxon song that we just hadn't heard yet. The song Carpe Diem is another great one. It's fast. That's the thing about this band is they haven't mellowed out over time either. If anything, their more recent albums are heavier than the stuff they did in the 80s, but not to to cash in on any kind of trend that was going on. That's just kind of how they've evolved. The production's gotten better. Everything about this band I just love. I just feel like they're in it for the long haul. They're just dedicated for the music, for the fans, and this is just another amazing, strong album from Saxon. So I want to give them some more love, and yeah, it's an album that I just keep going back to since it came out. It actually came out towards the beginning of the year, so the fact that it's remained my number 1 album throughout the year is, I think, a testament to how good it is. Okay, because it's been such a great year for heavy metal releases, there were several more that I wanted to just at least mention, honorable mentions here. that didn't quite make the list. Here's the latest album from Witchery. This is, I guess you call them a black and thrash band that's been around for many, many years, and continue to release quality stuff. Similar vein, we have Bloodbath, death metal collective that, somehow managed to be a super group and put out really, really strong albums. And I feel like this is actually one of their best ones yet. So if you really like classic Swedish death metal, definitely check out Bloodbath. This one kind of came out of nowhere. It's the solo album from Sakis Tolis from Rotting Christ. And it's a really interesting kind of offshoot of Rotting Christ. Like, there's definitely some similarities, but I feel like the stuff on here is maybe a little bit more folk, without being like folky, if that makes any sense. A little bit more hypnotic in some of the repetitive rhythms and stuff. But just a really good, strong album that was kind of a surprise to me, that it was not expecting. Always good to see some more quality albums coming out of Greece. Another band, been around forever, Arch Enemy, Deceivers. This is a band that I've always liked, but I feel like they did Wages of Sin back in the day, and it was so good, and they've never quite equaled that with any of the follow-ups, but they've also all been like consistently good. Like, it's hard to find fault with them, and again with Deceivers, it's nice to have them back on the scene. They were great live when I got to see them last year. So another of the more unusual bands that is mixing some interesting traditional heavy metal styles together. A little bit of Merciful Fate, a little bit of King Diamond, a little bit of classic like 70s Priest. I don't know. There's a lot going on with Trial, and I feel like they kind of fall into that same general category of bands like Portrait, In Solitude in their early days. Just, definitely taking their cues from classic heavy metal, but not in a way where it's, obvious that they're doing a, Judas Priest ripoff or Motley Crue or something. It's something unique. Same with this band, Summerlands or Summerlands, depending on who I hear saying it. This is their latest one, Dreamkiller. Just another great quality mix of heavy metal styles. Retro without being like cringy. And got to say something about Dark Throne. This is a band that helped define the black metal scene in Norway, and has gone on to, several different styles since then, including like, more punk oriented stuff. And then the last 2 or 3 albums have been very much in the, classic Celtic Frost, Hellhammer, kind of slower, really heavy, some like pretty epic length songs at times, but still very, very distinctively Dark Throne all around. Since I mentioned Avatarium, I had to mention Candlemass, who also put out an album this year. This is one that it was a little disappointing. There's a couple songs on here, like Wizard of the Vortex is really good. Sweet Evil Sun's really good. There's just like 3 or 4 songs on here that I feel like are really top quality classic Candlemass. But they're kind of spread out, and it's a bit much to listen to the whole album because it's not as consistent as some of the other ones I've talked about. like Avatarium, for example. But it is still an excellent album. It's just not, and I would actually say it's probably a little bit more memorable than the last couple Candlemass albums. But I feel like it's a band that is really not going to reach the levels that they did with their first 3 or 4 records. But that's okay. Like, they're still doing what they do, and they're doing it pretty well. And it gives them an excuse to tour, which is always good because they're actually coming to Seattle in 2023. So I'm very excited. I've never gotten to see them, and having the original vocalist back in the band, I'm so psyched. There's another like slightly lesser known band, Molten Chains, that I have discovered in recent years. They play a pretty, I guess, dark thrash would be maybe the best way to describe their sound. Like, it's got a little bit of the UK band Sabbath. Reminds me a bit of them at times. Vocals are definitely different from Sabbath, but also pretty unique in their own way. Kind of a lower, clean style. But the music itself is pretty thrashy, kind of speed metal thrash. It's kind of on the borderline, I would say, and just pretty dark. Like, it's just got a dark feel to the whole thing, which is cool. And then, yeah, want to mention Holder, the band that's kind of come out of nowhere again in the last year or so, taking the black metal scene by storm. This is just an EP that they put out, but it kind of shows them with slightly better production, and still, doing a great job of combining the really raw, classic black metal sound with a little bit more of an atmospheric vibe. And yeah, they were really good. I got another band I got to see this last year. I'm so excited that there's been shows in 2022. And they were great live. So yeah, looking forward to their next full-length album, which hopefully will drop in 2023. We'll see. Okay, and as this video is already way too long, I figured, what the hell, I'll go ahead and throw in some more albums that were outside of the rock and metal realm, or outside of the hard rock and metal realm, I should say, that I thought were really good this year. And yeah, you just might want to check them out, because who knows? You never know what you're going to like. So this is a new project from... if you're familiar with the psych scene at all in Denmark, there's a guy named Lorenzo Woodrose, not his full real name, but I can't pronounce that, who is best known for his work with the bands On Trial and Baby Woodrose, both of whom are amazing. I'm sure I've talked about him on this channel before, so check him out if you get a chance. This is a new project of his that's... pretty much in the same vein as like some of the Baby Woodrose stuff, maybe a little bit more raw, but still has that definite classic 60s psych rock sound to it. So yeah, if that sounds like something you enjoy, definitely check that out. Got to give a shout out to Charlotte Wessels from formerly of Delain, her second solo album, which again, she is doing all kinds of genres on this. It's not metal for sure. There are maybe a couple tracks that have some metal elements, but yeah, there's all kinds of mostly pop, rock, a little bit of folk, lots of good stuff, and her voice is still amazing, so check that out. Something totally different, if you like dance pop music at all, highly recommend checking out Sophie Tucker's latest, Wet Tennis. This duo does just some incredibly infectious dance pop stuff with like occasionally some guitar over it, like really simple guitar lines. But yeah, and just really good emotional sort of lyrics and delivery. So they are also coming to town in 2023, and from all indications, put on a great live show. In a similar vein, but more in the dark pop realm, we have Xylo with her latest album, An American Beauty. And yeah, this is, I don't know how to describe it more than dark pop. Like it's just got like that kind of melancholy feel that you get from a lot of LA artists for some reason. But really quality songs, very memorable. And she also put on a good show. I actually got to see her this year too. And someone else I got to see this year, Charlie XCX. So this is just, classic straight up pop music. She's written with and for a lot of other artists as well, but now she's finally getting her own recognition, and it's great to see. This was a comeback this year that was out of the blue. If anyone is familiar with the synth pop scene, they should be aware of the artist Kavinsky, who, in my opinion at least, kicked off the whole thing back in the 2000s with his album, or EP, 1986, and the album Outrun. Just classic, really great 80s synth, but like in a really driving modern context. And this is not a return to that style, which isn't too surprising because he's kind of moved on a lot over the years, but it still has enough of that, and it has a lot of different vocalists on it, which, his classic stuff was all instrumental, and I prefer that stuff, but it's still great to see him back, and there are some really cool songs on here as well. And finally, want to mention a dungeon synth artist, Old Sorcery. Someone who's been around for a while and done lots of releases. This is just the latest, but if you enjoy your classic Mortis albums and any other dungeon synth that's come along in the wake of that, yeah, definitely check that out. So that's about it. 2022 has been, again, a wild year in terms of world events, but I feel like the music scene has been incredibly productive with, there's just so many bands out there now, and there's just been so many great releases. It's really hard to keep track of them. I forgot one, actually, because it's on CD. Another non-metal thing that I totally recommend is Leatherstrip. Leatherstrip is a one-man industrial EBM project from Denmark, and he has done so many albums over the years, but he's also in recent years done a lot of tribute albums. And this is a really lengthy 2 CD tribute to Front 242, who are the kings of EBM going back to the early 80s. And he does a great job of staying true to the songs, but also like really giving them that kind of darker Leatherstrip edge. So yeah, if you like either his work or Front 242 or anything in that realm, definitely check it out. But anyways, that is it for this year, and hopefully we'll see even more great releases next year. I'm sure we will. And tours, and I am already looking forward to Rotting Christ coming back. They're going to be playing in Portland in February, so definitely check that out if you're in the area. I will hopefully be back here with some new reviews and hidden gems in early January. So until then, stay metal.